Welcome to Living Practice, a podcast that explores sacred moments and creative living. I'm your host, Ricky Horvatic. You may know me as Star Moth Press across various platforms on the internet, and I am here to talk with you about the practices that are currently lighting me up as we head into the darker months of the year. But first, some housekeeping. I wanted to let you all know that I have a free art journaling class called Pockets available on YouTube and Substack. I walk you through in the first episode the process of making a handmade journal with security envelopes recycled from all the junk mail and bills that you probably get in the mail. And then I provide written journal prompts that you can write about and ponder, and then we make ephemera as we reflect on our answers and reflect on the questions to stuff into the pockets of the journal. Each page is its own pocket. We have several episodes already up, and if you're curious about art journaling or making handmade journals, this is a great place to dive in. I'll leave a link in the description. Art Mail Club signups are currently open for December. It's $11 for untracked mail and $16 to add tracking. Currently, international folks, you can message me if you're interested in signing up, but only for the untracked option, and it might be a slightly higher price due to postage. In the Art Mail Club, you will get a zine, a sticker, and an original art piece, plus other goodies that I decide to include. This last month, I included a handmade journal for each of the members. So it is always a fun package to receive in your mailbox, and I invite you to sign up at my Ko-Fi shop if you feel called to. I've also decided to revamp my tarot art and zine readings, formerly known as the Oracle Art Readings. These are open for booking. They are a 3-card tarot reading. First, I create an abstract or surreal piece of artwork interpreted from the reading. And then from there, I create an 8-page mini zine, which will include my interpretation of the cards for you, as well as a picture of the cards, some keywords associated with them, as well as journal prompts and an affirmation. A note on these readings that I am someone who primarily focuses on the energetics of tarot, who is interested in reading to see how we can embody the energies of the cards moving forward in our life. So this is less divinatory, as in what's going to happen to me, and more about what we can do heading into the future. These are currently $33 in my Ko-Fi shop. The processing time is 3 to 10 days. I send it out via standard letter mail. If you would like to add tracking, please add $5 to the listing price. International folks, if you are interested in this offering, please send me a DM on Ko-Fi or Instagram so that we can set something up prior to you making the purchase. I don't want to purchase anything without us knowing the logistics of how it will work. That is it for the housekeeping announcements. We are now going to move on to the rest of the episode. I finished The Artist's Way. I would like to report that morning pages specifically is going to be the practice that continues, although recently the morning pages have not been happening at 5 o'clock in the morning like they did most of the time during the 12 weeks. I am currently getting over a cold, if you can't tell from my voice, so I've actually been sleeping in a bit this week and last week as I try to recover and give my body space to do so. Part of my belief in creative practice is that we have to be flexible and work with what is required of us in our day-to-day lives as well as our physical bodies. So don't shy away from this process just because you feel like you need to do it early in the morning before everybody wakes up. That kept me from doing it for a long time, but I'm happy to report that it is still a practice. I am not doing the artist dates as often, but that's mainly because we had a really big snowstorm and I'm just not trying to go out in the snow that much. And now we're moving on to the tarot diaries. The 4 cards that we worked with over the past month have been the Five of Cups, the Devil, Temperance, and the Knight of Cups. And the clear through line to me that showed up over the course of this month is being able to sit with and hold discomfort in our bodies, in our minds, and just in our experience. Um, it felt pretty obvious with the Five of Cups, with sitting there where the person is sitting there and looking at the spilled cups instead of recognizing what they already have. So there's this element of not feeling grateful or maybe looking like the grass is greener on the other side. And it really got heavy for me when we moved on to the devil card. I actually did a piece for the devil issue of the Rebus this last year. It came out in the fall. The piece I did was a mixed media piece, and the devil issue is really powerful. I highly recommend that you go and purchase it. And when I did the mixed media piece, I simply opened the container to create that piece and to work with the devil archetype. And I went deep and I understood it. I want to say, like, on, I definitely didn't understand it at the depth that I do now. In sitting with the discomfort of my own shadows that I try desperately to keep pinned down and keep in place as somebody who lives with bipolar disorder, as somebody who is neurodivergent, and just starting to learn how to unmask and release the shame around a lot of the things that I grew up doing. Um, so it brought up a lot for me when I got to the devil card, where I really tried to accept myself and accept that, nothing lives in a strict binary, that everything moves and dances in the in between. And that's really where the power is. But then when we got to temperance, it was a reminder of self trust and balance. And I had noticed myself slipping into a little bout of mania. Just to be clear, since 2016, my mania has been relatively under control. There have been times where I've had a change in my schedule or a change in medications or too much stress happening in my daily life that have led to me noticing this slight behavioral change. But I've gotten to the point where I've started noticing it like really early on. Um, and I don't even deny it anymore. It used to be this big source of shame, and now it was like, oh, I think maybe this is a sign that I'm starting to go manic. Um, and so being able to do that while still sitting in the aliveness that I tapped into while working with the devil card was really intriguing to me, because I was able to see that I could trust myself enough to know the parts of myself that I've always been ashamed of, and I didn't need to be ashamed of them, and that they are also a part of me and also an important aspect of my story and who I am as a person. I've been walking around as a half person this whole time because I felt like my mental illness and the issues that I've dealt with that have led to a lot of my struggles have have made it so that I've had to keep myself under control. And alcoholism had a lot to do with this as well. I am an alcoholic who is somebody who cannot, I can drink a drink, but I don't know if that's the only drink I'll have, and I definitely don't know if I can stop. And I got sober in 2017, on December 11th, 2017. So my 8 years is coming up in a couple of days. And it feels really monumental to feel that I can trust myself. I can't really, I feel like I want to underline that like a million times, however you do that on a podcast, because it feels like a revolution for myself to be able to know that I have the tools and the mindset and the equipment to be able to, like, oh, this is what's happening. This is what we do when this is happening. I have this under control. I don't have to fear my own mind driving myself off of a cliff, metaphorically speaking, because I suddenly find my mood out of balance. Finally, it all came together with the Knight of Cups, where you have this emotional knight sitting there staring into the cup, not being able, seemingly not being able to move forward, or at least this was my interpretation. And it really came into perspective for me with how much I feel stuck in my creative practice, specifically around my writing practice. Like this morning when I was walking my dog, I've had this book idea, a novel idea for since I got married, since like 2018, okay? And I've had this idea and I've not been able to put it on page and actually bring it into the world. And I pretty much wrote it off. And suddenly I got the whole download for it while I was walking my dog, where it's not this quirky romance story like I initially thought, but it's actually a story about family trauma and horror, basically. And it is totally different for me because I've been reading a lot more horror stories lately and sci-fi, which is definitely they are definitely genres that I tend to be more intrigued by, but I always felt very timid about writing them. I think I've been kind of scared as to how I would be perceived or judged by people, and like maybe worried that my mental health was out of balance by writing like a horror novel. And so stepping into this feels like the Knight of Cups is finally kind of urging his horse to move forward. He stops looking into the cup and is not afraid to take action. I think the biggest takeaway there is that I was willing to take, because this just happened today, and I've already been working with another card throughout the week that I'm going to write about tomorrow. So I think the biggest lesson there is that you have to be unafraid of the pause that is required for yourself to actually digest everything that you're taking in, external stimuli, and be able to put work out into the world. You have to be able to just be okay with the pause. And that is something I've always been very uncomfortable with. I am somebody who wants to keep moving and who wants to move forward and wants to get things done. And so learning not to fight when things aren't ready to move forward yet. And it seems like maybe I wasn't ready to move forward yet, but I am hoping to actually start working on a novel. Let's put this out into the universe because it feels important to say and to share with everyone, because if I don't, I feel like it's just going to languish in the back junk drawer of my mind. Um, so that's kind of the overall theme, really came down to sitting in discomfort and sitting in our own aliveness. Being alive doesn't always mean being comfortable. Being alive means being open to the entire spectrum of experience. That doesn't mean that we have to be okay with people who mistreat us or bad things that happen, but it does mean that like those things do happen. We can't reject experience just because it's an unfair, unjust, or cruel experience. What we can do, what we do have control over is how we react to it and how we move forward. I am starting to realize that I've let a lot of the aspects of my past contribute to how I move forward in the future. And I really want to step away from that. I don't want to keep living as somebody who's afraid that this version of me from the past is going to come back and take over my life. I would really like to step into 2026 and not be afraid to be myself authentically and show even the messy sides, because that's part of who I am. And so, if I would have to leave you with a prompt heading into 2026, because our next episode will be coming out in January, it would be to journal about what makes you feel more alive, the most alive, and how can you bring more of that into your life. This is something that I am going to be exploring through my word of the year of curiosity. And so I look forward to seeing all of the things that y'all are going to create, that I'm going to create. I think that hopefully, even during dark times, we can bring some hope and optimism to the world. That is it for me this time. I hope that you guys go do something creative today. I hope that you live your life with curiosity. And I hope that this last month of the year treats you well. If you guys have any questions, you can reach me at starmothpress@gmail.com or across the several social media platforms that I am on. And that is pretty much it. I hope that you guys have a wonderful holiday season. I hope that going into 2026 is a positive experience for you. And I look forward to diving further into the tarot with you in the new year.